What's going on, people? Welcome to 137 Works, and today we are going and having a look behind the beat at Thieves, the track that I put up on the channel recently. If you haven't heard it yet, I'll play a little bit so you can get to see what it sounds like. But basically, before I get into it, I thought I'd talk a little bit about the behind the scenes of this track before I talk about the behind the scenes of this track. Basically, because this thing took a while to get here. A lot of my tracks take ages, but basically this one went and had its own little backstory of its own. That I felt like I felt like just for my own kind of catharsis and peace of mind and closure to be able to put this one to bed, I finally released it and I'm going to talk about it so people know what I went through to make this track happen. It's a remix, if you don't know, of the Sea of Thieves track Be Calmed. It's from the soundtrack for Sea of Thieves, the video game, on Xbox and PC. Which is pretty fun, actually. You should try it out if you haven't. It's on Game Pass. It's worth a try anyway. But yeah, basically, also not sponsored or anything like that. Nothing to do with Rare or whoever, Epic, Rare, maybe Rare. It's nothing to do with any of them guys. It's just completely a tune that I was playing back when Sea of Thieves first came to the Game Pass. I was playing it with a buddy of mine for a couple of days, and I just had a really good time. And I really loved the song. It's just a really sweet, like kind of haunting sea sounding tune or something like that. I just really liked it. So yeah, decided to make this track, and basically, long story short, as I may say a couple times in this video, I tend to ramble. I have not made a song in about 3 or 4 years. I haven't actually published it and released a finished song that I was super happy with. It wasn't some quick, simple thing in about 3 or 4 years. What made me finish this one was besides all the backstory to it, I wanted to make this phrase known if it's not already. Casey Neistat has always said a phrase: don't let perfection get in the way of good enough. Don't let perfect get in the way of good, which is a thing and a trap that I fall into a lot of my stuff. Not that it's ever perfect by any means when I do finish it, but I do try and I do spend too long and agonize over things, and there's a lot of tracks that I like that I really like that are not finished because I just feel like that I can add a thing or tweak a thing or just finish a thing. I never want to put it out because I never feel like it's good enough. But with this one, for the longest time, it's been when did Sea of Thieves come out? Like Sea of Thieves is 2016, maybe even late 2017. No, not 2016, definitely not. 2017 though, maybe late 2017, early 2018. So it's been in the works for quite a while, and yeah, basically, I was happy with. I was really enjoyed the basic layout of the way that I chopped up the sample. Again, if you haven't heard it, it's a sampled hip-hop tune, basically, like a boom-bap hip-hop tune, like with a sample and some bits added to it and stuff. Yeah, I really liked what I had with it, the chop that I had, the flow and the layout of everything. I always felt like there was something missing. I could add on some bits and pieces, which I did eventually. I'll go through them in the end. Yeah, basically, I eventually got around to it and I finished it off. The backstory to it: I started the song in FL Studio 10, which is my kind of bread and butter version of FL Studio. It's the one that I use all the time. But at the time, long story short, again, said it there, I was having a lot of issues with it for some reason. I was having a load of issues with it crashing when the project would get too big, or when I would have too many plugins running at once, or if I hadn't opened a plugin in ages, or a project in ages, it could struggle to open up, and then eventually it'd be kind of unstable and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure it's a 32-bit version of FL Studio 10, so it's not, again, my thinking was if I get a new version of FL, I will get the it'll be a 64-bit thing, it'll be able to have more memory or whatever way that works, or like better usage in the memory, whatever way 64-bit versus 32-bit works. I just thought maybe it'd be more stable and help with the way the project works. And it doesn't look like it now because I've rendered everything out into WAV files. Again, I'll get to that. But it actually did take this project was one that took quite a toll on the program itself. So with all the automation and all the different bits and pieces that I had and all the plugins that I was using. So we get to it. I was using, I tried to basically, I used this SOT as it was called at the time. I used this as the mule for the FL Studio 12 to see like it loaded up and have make sure all the plugins and effects and all that would load up. It all did, it all worked fine, but it didn't solve my main issue, which was the crashing and like some of the audio driver issues that I was having. It didn't solve that. So I decided, okay, right, heck this, I'll delete this, bring it back into FL Studio 10 and continue on from there. And again, this is over a period of like a couple of days or a couple of weeks or whatever. And then lo and behold, I bring it back into FL Studio 10 and sure enough, there is no backwards compatibility essentially in FL Studio. If you open a project in a newer version essentially, or maybe it is like maybe different version of FL Studio 12 you can, but definitely not between like 10 and 12 because I tried to open it back up in FL Studio 10 and there was nothing there. It was all just red, empty clips, alarm bells ringing, everything was on fire. It was terrible. And I was very sad because I really liked the song. So I was like, okay, well, I can't just leave it and abandon it because I really like it. So I went and searched through all the different versions of FL Studio 12 that I could find upon the 7 Seas. Coincidental, ironic that we're talking about a piracy game here. And I couldn't find it, so I just kind of gave up for a while. And then for whatever reason, within the last couple of weeks, I was thinking, I've been humming and thinking about the song and humming the track and like just the original and all that's been back in my head for whatever reason. I just thought I have to do something. I have to find some way. And lo and behold, I'm just an idiot that didn't look closely enough at the warning message that it gets you. It tells you exactly specifically what version of FL Studio that you need. It tells you, like, I opened it up in a newer version of FL Studio, and then in brackets it's like 12.1.0.5.1.5 or whatever it may be. So, long story short, again, third time, I go to the 7Cs, I find the version, and I download it, and sure enough, I still don't like the workflow, it still doesn't solve any of my issues, but I can at least open it up, render everything out like individual tracks like you can see here, and then I can bring it back into FL Studio 12 or FL Studio 10, and then just mix it and add a few more bits, which is what you see that I did here. So, that's the backstory to Thieves. Basically, I went through some hell of a struggle. I to get this to where it is. It doesn't sound like it now, but like my head has just been melted over the last couple of months or whatever. It's been like trying to, like, on and off, trying to think about how to get it finished, and then also like trying to struggle with the idea of not letting perfection get in the way of good enough. Here we are. So here's the song. If you've never heard the original, basically I'll give you the first snippet. The first snippet that I'll play up until about this point here is essentially the intro to my song as well. Just I added a load of effects, and I'll talk about that when I get into my version. But here's what the original sounds like if you've never heard it. Right, so that's the intro. That's basically what the song goes on and plays like similar. It's a hurdy-gurdy if I'm not mistaken, or some version of something that sounds like a hurdy-gurdy, or maybe multiple hurdy-gurdies. But yeah, it's very, very good, and maybe an accordion in there. But it's very good. It's very just haunting or something like that, and that's the kind of sound that I was going for when I sampled it. So we get into my version now. So it starts off with the same exact piece, but just maybe sped up a little bit. Maybe it's a bit faster tempo. But again, I can't show you unfortunately all the automation. But essentially, it's just that piece with some reverb, some delay, and the idea that I had behind it, was to have it sound like again, the original song gives me like the idea of being out in a cold sea in the middle of the ocean at night or something like that. So like I thought I'd go for that vibe as well, but like rising from the ocean, like coming up from the depths to start off the song. So I like I use like I think it's a high pass filter to cut off the low end. I think I might have done it backwards. I might have actually needed to cut off some of the high end as well. But we get into it and you'll hear what it sounds like if you haven't already. So I have it completely fade off then. So that kind of gives you an intro. It kind of gives you an idea of the vibe that we're going for. And then it kicks in. So the rest of the sample then, again, unfortunately, I would love to be able to show you all the chops and all the cuts that I use. But again, I've since deleted FL Studio 12. Since I rendered it all out, I've deleted FL Studio 12 again. But basically, the general idea was to just come up with my own melody, as it were. Like my own kind of melody, I don't know, for lack of a better term. But while keeping it similar to the original. So you'll hear... The chops are easy to hear, like basically the way that they're cut. You can hear where they're cut and where they're like playing the same sound again. And I'll play it basically. It's set into like a verse and then a chorus, I guess. So like all up to this point here, maybe like a verse, and then from like maybe here, so it was a chorus, verse, a chorus, and then there's the breakdown towards the end. So kind of standard sound. So the verse, anyway, the main verse will sound something like this. So that's that, and as you hear there, it just changed it up. So this is like the again the kind of pre-chorus verse or pre-chorus chorus, whatever you want to call it. Then it changes up, and they use a different sample to create a different melody. But again, same style, same idea to it. So yeah, like a proper, it's the same idea, the same feel, the same general style of the original track, but definitely got like a more modern flow to it, like a more of a four and like a more of a 4/4 kind of vibe to it or something like that. So that's that. Next up we have, what will we do next? Will we do the drums next? We go with the drums next. Basically, nothing too complicated. Basically, kick, snare, hat to start off with, and then we add in the snare. And then just a simple issue, like it's just every, I think it's 16ths they call them, the hat. So then basically, yeah, that was that. And then there's obviously like just stuff like the crash and all. Yeah, that's you, just simple. But for the, basically the chorus or whatever you want, like the pre-chorus, and again, my terminology is terrible, but for like the main all-in-one part of it, shall we say, I added in like a tambourine, and a ride. The ride obviously comes in a bit earlier, you can see there, but just to play from here, like. And then towards the second half too, again, there's like a little break off here. You can see like it does like a little do do do, and like as it goes to do do do, like I wanted to just have a little pause in the drums, as it were, like in the sound, to just give it a little boom, and then it kicks back in. And when it kicks back in, it brings in an open hat. And again, I'll play that for you and show you how that works. So just a little open hat effect comes in. Just a little subtle thing on every offbeat. So then just the bass line. So again, to make a demonstration of the little break that I was talking about, we'll play the bass line and just play it with the sample. So you hear, this is everything that we have. This is the chord that I would have started off with, minus the tambourine, the ride, and the open hat, because they came later. But this is just basically the general loop that I came up with. Here's that break. So you hear like the combination of the bits coming out, and then the fact that I don't put the kick in on the first beat of that next bar, and hit the crash with the clap, or with the snare, if you get me. Like it adds just this little cool little funky thing to it that I love. But yeah, so that's that. So then other instruments that came in, also just to get it out of the way, there is a white noise effect. So then, yeah, so that's that. The other elements then are the arp. So there's like this little do 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 do. Same thing pretty much over and over again. Again, I think that's, just to mention the instruments, the bass line was Nexus 2, I believe. The Nexus 2 guitars expansion, one of the basses, the E basses in there. The ARP, again, I'm pretty sure is that Transfer Xfer Serum. Just plug it, just probably preset from there. Then there's this drone, which really makes the tune. There's like just this perfect part in after this breakdown. So I'll play the drone so you can hear it by itself, because I do think it's lovely by itself as well. So... So again, that doesn't sound like a whole lot by itself, and that is like heavily affected. I'm pretty sure I would have just like by myself gone and added in like a lot of EQ and a heap of reverb to just give it that kind of like, again, creepy, out at sea, like late, again, this is the image I have in my head, like out at sea late at night, kind of echoey, just you could shout off in a million miles in every direction and nobody could hear you, sort of thing. There's also like what I call the mouse pluck, which is just a very dead mousy kind of like syncopated, weird, like kind of, it sounds like it's probably out of time or something like that, but it isn't. Little effect that I have here going on. Yeah, so that's that. The main thing that I wanted to point out though is there is an amazing thing that happens when you combine the sample with the drone effect. It just brings up, like, because it's, if you can see it here, this part is fairly quiet, But when you combine it with that, this is all just sheer dumb luck. I didn't plan any of this, but when you combine it with the dropout effect that I have here, the sound, the sound of this drone melody combined with the original sample, like it just there's something beautiful about it that I love, which is why I think one of the main reasons that's so stuck in my head since I begun it. But I'll play this now, so you get the idea. I'll even turn down the sample a bit so you can hear it a bit more pronounced. Yeah, so that's that. So basically, so far what we have when you combine everything is... Oh, sorry, I forgot. These are the bits I actually added in after the fact. So we have... This should be everything so far, yeah. So yeah, that's basically that so far. And then just as I said, in the interest of, I did want to add something else. I just needed some like little extra piece that I wanted to have in there. So I came up with this just very simple four upwards, for like every 4 notes upwards thing, which I thought was pretty cool. So again, just added on, I think actually, so I actually have that. So you can see an idea if I bring in the mixer here. So you can see an idea. So basically all the sounds that you would have heard there would have had some combination of like a VPS filter. In this case, just I think it's, what do you call that, a high pass filter? Yeah, I can never remember which one's which. Pretty sure it's a high pass filter with a, like basically cutting off the low end. A reverb with just loads of reverb on it, like the mix is set super high into the effects basically, rather than the direct side, or the dry versus wet for like more common plugins. And the classic compressor, just to get, because it was pretty quiet, like it just needed some compression. So like 18 with a 4:1 compression ratio. And yeah, basically they'd all have some combination of that, just with different amounts, different variations of it basically. But yeah, that's the main majority of the main track. It just kind of repeats a couple of times. Then we come to the breakdown. I love the breakdown because it's actually me playing guitar. Yeah, that's a fun fact. I did have to edit it a little bit and just fudge the timing on some of the notes with it. But for the majority of it, basically, this is what it sounds like. That's me playing the actual guitar. You can see on the GTR line here. Oh, sorry. I had the actual thing playing. Yeah, so that's just to give you an idea what it sounds like, but just to single it out, so this is the guitar by itself. Yeah, so again, when you combine it, I'll just turn down the sample a little bit. It just complements the original melody really well. I didn't want to go too far off and too crazy with it. I'm not an amazing guitarist as it is. I have an electric guitar. I can plug it in through my interface, and I have a Guitar Rig 5 there, which has like just endless amounts of guitar sounds. So I just wanted to combine them. So we'll hear what that sounds like together with the sample. Yeah, so just while I was watching that, I have a strange fear that I think the bass line just shifted out of place. Hold on. Yeah, it did, you can see. That's another, a weird thing. Like, I think it's I'll plug out my MIDI controller. Hold on, real quick. My MIDI controller, it's like an old, like, battered up, but still working fine, like, original Oxygen 49. I can never find the actual model itself anywhere anymore. But that, it causes things to jump out like that. Very strange. Anyway, yeah, so that's the guitar piece that I played, and again, not perfectly, and then it loops again. That's why I didn't bother playing the second half either time. There's also then, again, in the interest of just adding another little bit for the breakdown, I added in this synth part, and it's Nexus with the House Volume 1 big organ. That doesn't sound right. Why doesn't that sound right? Because it isn't right. This is the, I knew it. I was like, it's the vintage, one of the like weird expansions. Yeah, the vintage synth expansion for Nexus 2, the Roland D10 Saw Limited, or Saw Lead even. Don't get it wrong. I don't always, like, I know you can get the wrong impression and think that I always use like Nexus on that's it, and I don't make it like play with any presets or make my own sounds or like that. I do, but just sometimes like just flicking through Nexus is all you need to do. Like, you can find the right sound in there, particularly if you've got a load of the expansions. And again, I always add on loads of effects, so you can see. For this one, I have, again, the filter LFO tool on this one and classic compressor, so I haven't left it completely standard. But yeah, sometimes just something simple is all you need. So that's what this sounds like. It's just another melody. I'll probably just do the same thing. I'll play it along with the sample. And I played this one, as you can see, with the MIDI. Yeah, so that's the main like the main kind of like what we call like lead, like the equivalent to a guitar lead. I love what he did at the end here. They work really well when you combine it with the guitar sample, the original melody, the guitar solo that I played, and the synth here that I play. They all do that do 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 sound like. Just in my opinion, it comes out cool. Yeah, then it just goes into a general theme that plays throughout the end. So again, I'll play it all from the second half of the guitar verse and then let it play out so you get a better idea. I'll just turn this back up again. And again, a different pattern on the drums here. It's not the same one from the verse and the chorus. It's like it's its own like kind of boom, 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 boom. Like it's a different kind of pattern. So what I did for the end here basically is, again, the same with the end of the original song. I'm pretty sure it's right at the very end of the original song. It has the end of the original song is one of my favorite parts of it as well. It's just, again, it's just like kind of haunting or something. So yeah, you get the idea. Yeah, and that's just basically, it's the same as the intro effect, just in reverse, essentially. Like where I brought down the sliders, I brought down the knobs, turned down the knobs, I turned them up, for example, or vice versa, like on the outro. So it's... You hear the way it fades off into the off into the distance rather. I also used a plugin called Decimort. I do remember that. I forgot to mention that. I just heard its effects there as it was panning out. There's a plugin called Decimort. It's like basically a bit crusher with based on like old boxes and stuff like that, old like physical boxes or whatever, that crushes up the sounds in different ways. And I used that on the sample as well to kind of just give it that bit more grit that I was looking for. And then I also just finally, I just had everything, you can see the waveforms here. I had everything just kind of like, again, like cut off, like I lowered the cut off and cut off the frequencies and stuff like that as effect sounds. But yeah, that's basically it. I'll use the outro of the song to just outro the video. I just needed to do that for me. I needed to get that backstory out there. I wanted to show off how it was done. Even if 5 people see this, that'll be enough, and I'll be appreciative of it. But that's it. If you enjoyed it, please do leave a thumbs up. There's a link to download the song, or to listen to the song, in the description of this video, and there's a link to download that song in the description of that video as well. And again, I'm not sponsored, I'm not in any kind of relationship with Rare or with Microsoft or anything like that. No contact. It's just I love the song. If you liked the song, you might like the game. It's like a lot of people say it's kind of shallow a bit, but there has been loads of updates. There is loads of updates always coming to it, from what I can see. I haven't jumped back in a long time, but I definitely will be having a look after I finish the song. It's just kind of like a thank you to the game again for inspiring me to make this tune. Again, it's super relatively simple. It's just some basic parts stacked on each other, but I really liked it, and I really liked kind of the story to it. So I hope you did too. If you enjoyed it, as I said, please leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new here. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.